All right, so what we're going to go over today really quickly is just essentially overcoming objections in the home. More importantly, how to be proactive versus reactive to make sure that at the end of the, when you're going through with the client, that it all makes sense and that you're actually not really getting objections. You'll still occasionally get them, but the whole point of what we're going to go through essentially in the beginning is to completely avoid that. So, Evan, if you want to start with what your role and purpose looks like, sounds like, and kind of what the meaning of it is.
Absolutely. So I'm sitting down with the client, I have the lead, I push the lead over, and I don't have that much rapport while I'm walking in the home. If it smells good inside, I'll say it smells good. If they have a dog, just talk about the dog for a second, but I get straight to the point. Hey, this is the lead that you filled out. What was your main concern when you filled this out and sent it back in? And they'll tell me. And sometimes they have a really strong why, like, hey, my aunt died last month, I don't want that shit to happen to my family. Or if they're like, I'm not really sure, what's this all about? Then I do a little bit of explaining. You gotta meet them where they're at. But, there's a little variance here, but from here on out, it's exactly the same. Like, if you put a gun to my head at 12 a.m. while I'm in REM cycle, I'd be able to wake up and just go into it. So, alright, let me show you a couple things before we get started here. This first guy here, this is my license with the state of Nevada. What I'm going to share with you today are state-regulated programs, and they have underwriters such as myself come out and meet with each individual. Alright? This second sheet here, this is a list of the carriers that these programs are run through. You recognize anybody on here?
Yeah, I know Transamerica, I know Americo.
Okay, cool. So again, my name's Evan. I'm what's called a field underwriter. What that means is I get to look at all these carriers that have programs here in Nevada. I don't work for any of them. I'm not a captive sales agent. I don't even work off of commission. My job is first off to determine if this is even necessary. Okay? They have me ask you a couple health questions, a couple finance questions, to understand what you're eligible for. If there's something that you believe probably protects you and your family, and more importantly fits within your budget, then we'll go ahead and request some coverage. Okay? All I need is a little head nod. Okay, yep. Then we're good to go. Now if I don't get anything, like it's just a blank stare, or they're hesitant, then I address it right up front. I'm like, I'm sorry, I asked you if you're okay with, is there any reason that we shouldn't proceed? And maybe someone will come up like, I don't want to make a decision today. That's fine. And if they say that, you're going to freaking close. Because
100% of the time, because they're buyers.
They're a buyer, and if you make the value proposition, you find the need, they know that they'll go. So they just want to, they're saying that to save their own skin. Anyway, so everything on after that is pretty much just the financial and health inventory, and we go from there. What about you? What's your role and purpose?
Yeah, so really my role and purpose, just like Evan said, if somebody put a gun to my head at 12 o'clock at night, I would be able to say it as well. And really what my role and purpose is to be proactive versus reactive. Really what Evan was just saying, essentially what that sounds like for me is, so, hey Evan, I just want to explain to you, my role, my purpose, and really what I'm here to help you to accomplish today. So I'm what they call a field underwriter or broker. And that just means I work together with several dozen companies that do these mortgage protection plans. Meaning I'm not individual to any one company. I'm much more individual to you to get you the lowest rate based off what we're looking to cover, if coverage is even necessary at all, okay? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the mortgage itself to make sure I do have the correct idea how it is set up. A little bit about finances and plans that you may already have in place, because again, you may not need this at all, or you might need a lot less than you thought you needed, and I'll be the first person to tell you that. And then just a little bit about your health, not to be invasive, just to make sure whatever direction we're going in, we get you approved for the coverage and we don't get you declined, okay? And your job really today is just to kind of help me help you. What I mean by that is we all have a budget. I know I do, I'm sure you do, and the guy down the street probably does. So we want to make sure whatever we're looking at will suit both the need, the budget, and we'll do our best to make them work together. Evan, we will take that application today and get it sent up to senior underwriting for final approval. Typically takes them about 1 to 5 business days to get us an approval or a decline, and then from there you'd have the coverage in place. Sound good?
Sounds good.
And then I'm moving on. So I'm addressing budget, I'm addressing that they're not thinking about it, and I'm moving on.
Right. And what that does for you is, when you walk into a home and you're nervous, as long as you have your script down, you set the thing up, and it's just rolls off your tongue, you can see, I stutter when I'm talking freehand. I'm just improvising. I'm not that, I'm okay. Marisa, you're good at it just normally, so you're good at improv. But you can tell, I didn't stutter, fluid. Hers, you said it a million times. So it's very, and when you go into a home, there's a lot more confidence that's just going to come from you, especially when you're walking in the door. Less anxiety because you know what you're going to say and how this thing's going to go down. Cool?
Absolutely.
Right on. And you touch upon it more than I do. can't afford it. Yeah, you get that right out. You do a really good job of that. You probably barely get this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you hammered it.
Yeah.
And you probably got a lot in the past.
Oh yeah.
So
That's
you
why I
emphasize.
learned how to hammer it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
Absolutely. So at the end, even with the role and purpose, sometimes you are going to get an objection, a concern, whatever it might be. But again, we want to avoid it as much as we can on the front. Again, being proactive versus reactive. But at the same time, sometimes we are going to have to be reactive, so to say. With that being said, Evan, when you get to the end and you did your role and purpose, you did everything you were supposed to do, and I say, well, I just need to think about it. I just need a couple days. I'm going to call you back. I just want to pray on it.
Okay, and we're just assuming that Marisa does not have a spouse as well, so it's just Marisa.
It's just
right? So I'm like, okay, good. So you're probably going to go back, you're going to run your numbers, or you're going to call your kid.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it really fits in the budget and I feel good about it.
Gotcha. Okay, and we went over your income is around, was it $1,500 a month?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And do you have anything put in place right now as far as life insurance policy goes? Anything that would act as life insurance?
No, that's why I filled the form out, but I just want a couple days to think on it. I'll definitely call you back though.
Okay, no, she won't, but she's just saying that because she wants me to, yeah. She doesn't want to be confrontational. So I'm like, okay, well listen, the cure is going to give you about a week to think about it. What we'll do today, we'll take the application. I'll know whether you're approved in about 5 to 10 minutes. And then if it doesn't make any sense to you, you can give me a call, but we can adjust it from there. Does that make sense?
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, driver's license, void check.
Done. Awesome.
Works. And depending on how, how should I say this? I don't want to say fake, but how genuine the person is, I could get really deep into it. Because if you're, that's for Marisa and she's like a 27-year-old faking a 60-year-old to me right now. But if you're 80, I'm looking you dead in the eye and I'm like, hey, John, you want to think about it, right? Okay. With all due respect, I got this one from Sean Mike. With all due respect, in this football game of life, we don't know when the referee is going to blow that whistle. We do know that you're in the fourth quarter. With that being said, we need to put some protection in place now and think about it later. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's typically what you get, by the way.
Yeah.
Because they are in the fourth quarter and they know.
Right. Hey, we're not joking anybody here. It's not like I'm saying anything that's made out like a fairy tale land. This isn't like Harry Potter shit. There's a gorilla in the room, dude. We're all gonna fucking die, and you're way closer than I am. And I'm the one that has $1 million life insurance for myself. You need at least $3,000 to cover your freaking commercial. Sweet.
Absolutely.
Marisa, I need to think about it.
So Evan, like I said before, I showed you your options. Sometimes people will say they need to think about it, sleep on it, pray about it. It's always typically a budget issue or a trust issue. So which one is it coming down to for you?
Trust.
Okay. So is there something that maybe I could have done better today, or that you need a little bit more engagement with that would help you trust me?
Can I take a picture of your license?
Of course you can. Yeah, absolutely. I told you right at the beginning.
Rewind it. Let's just say I got scammed with life insurance in the past.
Okay, so you had a bad experience with an agent.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what that looked like.
Good job. Yeah, I'm gonna make up some bullshit. He said that they wouldn't draft the premiums, and they drafted the premiums, and then it started, and I couldn't cancel it, so I had to go through all this rigmarole. I wasn't really happy about that.
Okay, so you had to you were tossing the frisbee back and forth, and your bank account got drafted a few times, and you weren't expecting it.
Right.
Okay. So here's what I can promise you, Evan, is what I tell you I'm going to do today is what I'm going to do. Just like I told you right at the beginning, that we're going to take that application today, get it sent up to senior underwriting for final approval. So I do what I say I'm going to do. With that being said, you are 75 years old. You have no coverage in place, right? You mentioned to me that your daughter would have to take care of your final expenses if something should happen. With that being said, it's really hard for me to understand, exactly what you need to think about. You can definitely take a picture of my license. I would love for you to do that. You can actually also look it up right online to make sure, I'm licensed in the state of Massachusetts. Is there anything else I could do for you right now to help you, understand how important this is? Because we just sat here for 30 minutes and I thought we were on the same page, but it seems like we're out of sync.
That was really good. That was good. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to look up her license and do that. Okay. That was really good. You just hit that head on.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes if somebody doesn't trust you, it's like, almost like you have to leave the house and say, what can I do better in the next appointment? But typically, if you're with somebody and you're getting to the close, they usually do trust you by that point, as long as you've showed them your credentials and things like that. So just make sure that you continue to do that.
Yeah, and just so you know, like, we're relatively young to be life insurance agents, and I don't get it that much. Do you get it that much?
No.
Yeah.
No.
And like when I was getting into this, I had a limiting belief of like, nobody's gonna trust me, dude. I'm 24. But as long as you have proper composure, you have a nice, what my mom calls a front office. You got your suit pressed. No, I'm just kidding. But you got your polo shirt, you got your khakis, you got everything like that. You have respect. You allow them to talk. You listen. You're attentive. Good eye contact. You have good demeanor. You're gonna be set, man. And they know that you're legit just by the way that you hold yourself.
Absolutely. Right. So I'm gonna hit you with one. So Evan, yeah, I just, it sounds really great, but I just want to talk to the kids about it.
You want to talk to the kids?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the kids are on board.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. When my mom was getting life insurance before I became an agent, she was telling the person the same thing, and he gave her about a week to talk to me about it, okay? When she talked to me about it, I was put in a very awkward position because on one hand, I wanted the coverage, but I didn't want my mom to pay for it. So I would tell her, like, no, don't worry about it. I'll handle myself. And it was almost a sense of like guilt, but mismatched with the sense that I wanted the coverage because God forbid anything happened to her, I wouldn't be able to afford it. So just keep that in mind when you're gonna talk to Jason. Jason, what does he do for a living?
He's a carpenter.
Okay. Well, listen, Jason, we went over the fact as far as financial goes, you need the protection in place, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Jason, really good kid?
Awesome.
Okay. Either way, whether he says no, he knows that he's going to need it. And also, if he says yes, well then, he says yes, right? So with all due respect, either way, it makes sense to put a coverage like this in place. It just takes about 5 to 10 minutes to get you approved. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
And the quick question, if Jason wanted to pay for it, can I always change the bank account, or?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, we can change it later on. We just want to
Okay.
put something in place moving forward.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Cool. Driver's license, what did you?
Awesome.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up the payment thing. You can always switch it later. You
Yeah.
just want to put something on the books now.
Exactly, yeah. And that's a big point, because sometimes people's kids do want to pay for it, which is fine, and you can always change the payer, but just have that payment come out just like Evan said.
Right. Yeah, I got that one from Paul McLean.
Yep.
You want to handle it, or would you handle it the same way?
I would handle it the same exact way.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on. Need to talk to my kids. Oh, Marisa, I'm gonna save it. Why would I do this? I could just save this every month. I don't want to pay $50 for $5,000 in coverage. I could just save the $50, put it in the market, and I'll be perfectly fine.
Okay, so you're going to save the $50 every month for the $5,000 benefit?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you know roughly how long it would take you to save $5,000?
10 years.
Okay,
8 years.
and you're 75 years old?
Correct.
What if you don't make it to 83? So, Evan, here's what I'd suggest. If I was sitting with, my grandfather, I would tell him the same thing. Again, you are in the fourth quarter of life, right? And you don't have anything in place. So getting this $5,000 for $50 a month, is that going to break the bank? Is it a budget issue? Or is it just like you don't see the need to have the $5,000 immediately in place? God forbid something should happen tomorrow and you don't come home.
Make a good point there.
I know. So, Evan, just grab your driver's license, avoid a check. We'll get this going for you. I promise you it's painless.
Well done. Yeah, that's good. That was really good.
All right, and then how about you? Would you say anything different on the? I'm just gonna save it every month.
Well, I don't approach it where I don't hit it as straight on as I maybe should, because that was really good. Where it's like you ask them the questions, I'm like, no, it depends. I don't really get that much, because a lot of people understand how life insurance works and their leads and they reach out, but some people are really analytical, and you will get the oddball sometimes when it's like an 82 or an 83-year-old smoker, where the premium is pretty high for the death benefit. So I emphasize, okay, something happens to you tomorrow. What happens with your kids? Okay, we're not here to necessarily put an investment vehicle in place. We want to put something in place now. So God forbid something happened tomorrow, next week, next month, your kids would be properly taken care of. Does that make sense? Now, if you're gonna put money away anyway, this has a savings account that you can draw from. It doesn't necessarily have to be for your burial cremation, but you do have the budget if you're thinking about putting it in the stock market, whatever you want to do investment-wise. Makes a lot of sense to put it in place now, and immediately you have $5,000 in the bank. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay. Driver's license for a check.
Boom.
Yeah. And that final line, does that make sense? I've kind of tried this before where it's like, all right, Marisa, so you're 87 years old, you're a female non-smoker, you know, it's been a good ride, correct?
Yeah.
It's on the last leg, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, the sky's blue. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, void to check, driver's license. So it's almost like the last thing that you say is like, makes sense. Yeah, if it makes sense, obviously we're gonna do what makes sense. Yes.
Yep, and those are just like post closes. Does that make sense? I asked the client, does that make sense? Like probably 20 times throughout me going through to make sure A, they're on the same page as me, and B, I'm post closing. Like I'm basically making sure Evan's like, so every time I say, does that make sense? And Evan nods his head, I'm closer to closing. Absolutely.
That's right.
That's huge. Right on.
Nice job. Never get another objection. No, but like the setup, really what it comes down to, prevent that. Best way to overcome an objection is to prevent it from happening in the first place.
Absolutely.
Make it a massive week, guys. Thanks.